What is going on, guys? It is Blink here, back with a new guide. So this guide is a full gameplay guide and I'll show you guys what to do in every situation if you've got no sniper. Also, the V-Bucks giveaway is still going on, so make sure to visit the link in the description to enter. And lastly, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications as I post an Amazon gift card code in the comments every time I upload. By turning on notifications, you'll have a way better chance of getting here first and redeeming that code. Anyways, guys, let's get to this guide. Going back for the blue house at Salty Springs, I'll probably start switching at my starting location as I've been going to Salty Springs for quite some time now. So I head for the back door and found myself a shotgun, and you guys already know, it's the best weapon you can find early game. I also end up finding a bunch of shields to get myself to 200 health. You guys can also see I placed down a floor. The moment I heard someone come in, I did it to avoid getting easily sneaked up on. If he tries coming up, he'll have to break down my floor first, and I'll clearly hear it. I can also use the edit tool to look right through my floor and make the necessary edits before my opponent notices. Lots of things you can do with the floor. I explained more on my in-depth house guide I created a few months ago. If you guys haven't saw it yet, then I recommend you guys check it out as it'll help you improve your house fights. I looted up and headed outside. Now, one tip I want to give you guys is to use the roof of houses to spot for players. It gives you such a good view of the area around you. I ended up spraying down an opponent across the street and headed right back up to the top because I can hear someone on my roof. Make sure to not lose out on that high ground. This player didn't take any shots on me, not sure why, but overall he wasn't in a good position. Looted up both players, and as this guide states, I'm not using any sort of sniper, so my sniper slot will end up being an extra piece of health item. I got my long range weapon, which is my AR, and my close range weapons, which is my shotguns. You'll need to be pushing a lot more without that sniper. More aggressive fighting and more AR spraying will be a thing. There ended up being a player inside the house across the street, so I pushed into the house and I placed down a ramp the moment I opened the door. In most houses, anywhere you are, you can usually place down a ramp for cover. I used my ramp for cover in an easier lineup onto my opponent. Confirmed the edit once it had the angle. My opponent had absolutely no clue. Now, he tried blowing both of us up and it freaked me out a little. I'm actually kind of confused how we never took any damage from the C4, although it's probably not a good idea to plant C4s around the house you're currently hiding in. So, one more thing, the title has something about not having a sniper during your games, and I'm going through examples that happen throughout the game, basically the best things you should be doing in my situation. I also plan on making a straight up endgame guide without a sniper, so I'll include many different situations and examples in that guide. It will be a pretty sweet guide for sure. Now, I see an opponent up ahead, and without that sniper, I'll need to be pushing a lot more. Gather up a little more wood, and yeah, the struggle of having almost no materials in every fight does get annoying. So, I take a few more shots onto this opponent, because remember, he probably doesn't have that many materials either. Tried going for the push, and as I did, my opponent sprayed right back at me. Now, I've explained before that anytime someone sprays at you, that doesn't mean you always have to build. Build a few things to have enough cover to peek. He's shooting so you can shoot back. If anything, you'll be more accurate because he's more focused on your materials. So take shots back if you can. This fight ended up being pretty close, and I made sure to build myself cover the moment I needed it. He ended up running out of materials, which did help me out a little. As I was gathering materials, I can kind of see something out in the distance. I had to look back a few times to notice it was a player trying to line me up. Built myself cover and he ended up using the porta-fort. So as he did that, I was still gathering materials and I was debating on pushing or not. Although he had no clue where I was, so I went for the push. If you had a sniper in this situation, a push would have still been your best bet. My opponent's super close and the trees don't help a sniping situation. If he was a little farther, then a sniper would be viable. But without a sniper, that's still a push even if he's out a little farther. The moment I got to the porta-fort, I placed down a wall in the direction my opponent was. I then elevated up above by placing 2 walls down and then a staircase. I repeated that a few more times to get the high ground quicker. Now, I did jump off and take some damage. Wasn't a smart idea, but overall, I did get the elimination. I made sure to build walls when my opponent wasn't taking shots. Got the elimination and healed up. Now, my materials weren't too bad as this opponent did have a good amount. I also got a few bouncer traps which will come in handy. I also want to mention to make sure you're taking a look at your utility items. So the traps and jump pads and so on. Make sure you're paying attention because they will come in handy. I also want to mention that you should have your best item as the currently selected one. If I had traps, I would have still had my bouncer traps as my primary because I can disengage much easier. If I had a jump pad, I would have either had that or the bouncer traps depending on what I feel more comfortable with when disengaging a fight. So basically the item that helps you disengage more often will be the one you want to to set as your primary, just avoid you from switching between them in critical situations. You guys can also see I used the bouncer trap to get closer to my opponents, saved a lot of time and potentially won the fight because of it. Also, you might notice as I shoot, my item slot will show up. It's because I accidentally click my item slot as I'm shooting. The item slot is one of my mouse buttons, so it sometimes does happen. So I'll have to work on not clicking my side mouse button accidentally. I was heading away from the last area I fought at to see if I can find any more players, although a few more players showed up in the same area. So I pulled out my AR and started spraying at both players to see if I can put on some damage. Without that sniper, I can't line up a critical shot. If an opponent's in the open, take AR shots. If he's hiding behind cover, push him and start utilizing your shotguns. Usually with the sniper, you'll be able to line up shots in both situations, but as I said, spraying and pushing is key without one. What I'm doing here is using the materials we built around to get on the highest point to see if I can spot for any more opponents. I'll do this pretty often after a fight, because any players around might be heading towards you right after that fight. So by you getting to one of the highest points around you, you can spot much easier and still hold the high ground. I don't spot anyone, so I backtrack to an older fight to see if I can find any opponents lurking around and maybe taking some of the loot from a previous fight. It's one of the things I like to do if I cannot find any more opponents. I'll backtrack because a lot of the times players will head to areas that look like there's a fight going on, because it'll potentially get them closer to another opponent. By you backtracking, you'll usually be able to meet up with another player. I do spot someone, and as I took my first shot, I walled up the area. He now thinks the only way I can shoot him is to go around my materials. What you can do is quickly edit your walls and catch your opponent by surprise. This is just another great example of utilizing the edits to outplay your opponents. Now, this player did have a medkit, and I'd rather carry shields over medkits because I'm confident enough to get off my shields every time I lose them. Anytime you drop from 100 shield, you'll only lose a bit of health. By drinking 100 shield again, you'll only once again lose a bit of health. You just have to make sure you're able to build yourself covered to take the shields quick enough. So this next fight, I meet up with a player that catches me by surprise. I never expected someone to be hiding in this little corner of the house. Now, I thought it was boxed in, but the one side was fully open, so this opponent was basically in my face. Built a lot of cover as he did scare me a little. He ends up going outside the door, and what I do is utilize the right side peeking angle to take some easy shots. Now, it was a little awkward as the camera angle was a little close, but overall, I did get the kill pretty easily. You guys also notice I did take the extra shield on the ground because I don't want anyone else to grab it. If you don't think you'll be heading back to a certain area, then use the medkit or the shield to avoid anyone else from taking it. So, we're getting pretty close to endgame, and if you want, you can build yourself a fort in the middle of the circle and wait till the safe zone gets very small. This will allow you to take more fights in a more of a shock and distance. That's just one way of finishing off this game. You might get some players pushing you, which is what you want, because your opponent's sniper won't be as viable. Now, I'm still making sure to really scan my surroundings. I actually head up to this porta fort because I want to make sure no one shoots me in the back as I pass it. Anything that seems kind of sketchy, I suggest you check it out or try avoiding it overall. Up ahead, I hear a player fighting. One of them wins the fight and boxes himself in. I quickly go for the pressure play because he can potentially be low on HP. Anytime you see players finishing up a fight, go for that push. Now, my ramp went right into the ground and resulted in me in taking some damage. Some places where you place materials can get very awkward, so watch out for that. The moment this player shot out my materials, I boxed myself in and waited till he peeked me. Once he peeked me, I confirmed the edit and got a critical shot on him. Now, this fight was all aim after that. We were way too close to build cover, so whoever hits all their shots first will win the fight. Thankfully, it worked out for me, and I instantly went for the heals. That golden bolty would be a nice thing to grab right now, but we gotta keep going. Since there's no medkits around, I use my campfire to get as much HP as I possibly can. Now, there might potentially be a medkit around. I just don't want to risk looking and then getting pinched. I'll usually use anything I have with me without wasting time. At this moment, a player could be pushing me, so you want to get off your heels as soon as you can. After healing up, I use the materials around me to check my surroundings. If you're jumping around like I am, then just be prepared to build yourself cover if you get shot at. No luck in finding anyone, so after the next safe zone hit, I built myself inside a fort and waited it out. The last opponent ended up being inside one of the buildings, so without that sniper, I can't really aim and shoot. What I did was spray at the doorways and started adding slight movements and jumps the longer I sprayed. This just makes it harder for my opponent to line up a shot as I'm moving around. After breaking the walls, I tried to get closer, and the moment I jump padded, he started building towards me. Now, where he went wrong was not taking shots at me the moment I was in the air. He also made the mistake from jumping off his high ground. The moment he saw me flying in, that's when he should have took shots at me and built higher. He could have potentially put damage onto me, and as he did that, he would have held the high ground too. Next, I would have had to figure out what I'm going to do next to get the high ground back when he's already pretty high up. Well guys, that's it for this guide. It was a little shorter as I was skipping to all the important parts, but hopefully I've helped some people out, and a like and a sub will be greatly appreciated as it does help me out a lot. Anyways guys, thanks for watching and hope you have a great rest of your day or night, and I'll see you on the next one.